Lorwyn Eclipsed is here, and it is just way too cool of a set than 3-year 6-set standard deserves. There are so many cool cards in Lorwyn Eclipsed that would have been standard all-stars just 10 years ago. Heck, even 5 years ago, half the cards in this set would have been considered OP, but now the kids just call them mid. Nonetheless, there's still some really spicy stuff in Lorwyn Eclipsed for not just standard, but non-rotating formats like Modern as well. That's why presented here are the top cards for non-Commander formats, all gathered up into one convenient place. Let's begin with, what's going on? It's happening! My Azurius opponent is finally casting a spell. I'll just counter it with no more lies and, there. While they tank on the stack for the next 10 minutes, I can take the best power nap of my life thanks to Helix, sponsor of this video. All my life I've had trouble falling and staying asleep, but thankfully Helix is a quality mattress brand with proven results that now helps me get better sleep. Ever since I upgraded to a strictly better mattress, the Midnight Lux, I've been getting top-tier sleep so that I can continue making top-tier plays. If you're looking to replace your mattress, you won't lose any sleep over ordering a new Helix mattress. Thanks to their 120-night sleep trial, you can guarantee it's the right choice for you. And on top of all of that, Helix mattresses have a lifetime warranty. Talk about being rotation-proof. Helix delivers straight to your door with free shipping in the USA and your new mattress rolled up in a single box. Setup can't be any easier or quicker, just like my arena opponents. Looking for an upgrade to your current mattress instead? Well, Helix offers mattress toppers that help extend the life of older mattresses, provide cozier comfort, and even help sleep cooler for the mono-red players out there. Talk about a 3-for-1. So if you're looking for a better mattress for this year or just hard stuck in silver against control players like me, visit Helix and get the rest you deserve. Thank you, Helix, for sponsoring this video. Visit helixsleep.com/Tolarian and get my exclusive 27% off prof discount site-wide off their flash sale today, or just scan the QR code. Let's begin with the standard format and then make our way back towards Modern. You know, it's funny, the card that I think has the most obvious day one potential for standard from Lorwyn Eclipsed isn't even a new card. It's a reprint of a once Modern staple, and it still sees a bit of Modern play, but now that this thing is standard legal, well, I think it's exactly the kind of card that this format sorely needs. Spell Snare is a 1-mana blue instant that reads, counter target spell with mana value 2. Spell Snare hasn't been reprinted in a standard set since its very first printing in Dissension, literally 20 years ago. The last time this card was legal in standard, many of you hadn't been born. But now it's back, and it couldn't have arrived at a better time. As standard has gotten more powerful, the difference between going first and second has only gotten more and more stark. In a world with artists' talent, Badger Mole Cub, fear of missing out, and no more lies, the player who gets to play their second land first has a significant advantage throughout the game. Simply put, if you lose the die roll before the game even starts, your chances to win take a dramatic hit. To some extent, this is unavoidable in Magic the Gathering. This is a game that rewards you for going first. That's not unique to Standard by any means, but relative to some other Standard formats in the past, the problem is worse now than it's ever been. Enter Spell Snare. There has never been a card so well suited for breaking serve on the draw. With Spell Snare in the format, it's no longer quite as clear-cut as the player who goes first is ahead. Yes, it's still better to go first even with Spell Snare legal, but there's suddenly a real downside to taking this advantage. Say you're in a Is It Looting mirror. Both players have access to powerful 2-mana plays like Fear of Missing Out and Duelist of the Mind. Before Spell Snare was legal, if you were on the play, you would want to just jam one of these 2 cards on turn 2. But now, say you play out your Duelist of the Mind on 2. Your opponent Spell Snares it. Now you're tapped out, so they untap and slam their Duelist of the Mind. Now they're the one with the board presence. Spell Snare isn't just a card that helps you gain ground on the draw. It's kind of only good on the draw. Yes, on the play you'll find a spot to use it later, since 2-drops get cast well into the late game in Standard and all of Magic. But the absolute best aspect of the card is its utility when you have 1 mana and your opponent has 2. I expect Spell Snare will be an immediate 2 of in most blue decks. Is It Looting is an especially great home for it, as that deck falls apart if it falls too far behind, and it has plenty of card selection to loot a useless Spell Snare away late in the game. Now, next up we have a card that harkens back to one of the most dominant historical Standard cards ever, a card with art that you've seen in every TCC video. That art right there. Bitterbloom Bearer is a 1/1 fairy rogue with flash and flying for 2 black mana. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose a life and make a 1/1 fairy. This lose a life and make a fairy ability is the exact same one as Bitterblossom, the notorious enchantment from Morning Tide. Bitterblossom dominated Standard during its tenure in the format 20 years ago. The number of flying bodies it generated for a single card was obscene, especially when combined with cards that rewarded you for having a lot of fairies in play, like Spell Stutter Sprite. Standard looks a lot different now than it did 20 years ago, however. It's more powerful and, more importantly, faster. The life loss every turn is a big liability in a format like this one, and Bitterblossom would take too many turn cycles to generate the number of bodies required to make the 2 mana investment worthwhile. Bitterbloom Bearer, therefore, is exactly the kind of different from Bitterblossom that it needs to be to make an impact in the current Standard meta. First and foremost, it's a creature. That means it's more susceptible to removal, yes, but that drawback is worth it for the upside. Namely, that a single trigger gives you your second 1/1 flyer. Bitterblossom took 3 turns to reach that threshold. Bitterbloom Bearer doesn't even take 2 turns to get there. That's because of the other main difference from its predecessor. It has flash. With Bitterblossom, if you want to start the train rolling, you had to tap out for it on turn 2. That meant you were defenseless if your opponent did something powerful of their own on turn 2. It also meant on the draw that you were playing directly into 2 mana counter magic. But Bitterbloom Bearer doesn't tap you out of counter magic. It plays with counter magic. You hold it up alongside a counter spell, say Spell Stutter from Wilds of Eldraine, a card which gets immeasurably better with Lorwyn in the format. It's also a 2-drop which plays around Spell Snare. Since you don't need to tap out at sorcery speed, if your opponent is relying on Spell Snare to break serve on the draw, you can simply pass the turn and force them to untap. Then they have to decide to either play their own 2-drop or keep holding up a counter for your Bitterbloom Bearer. If they're smart, they'll recognize they have to just jam their own 2-drop and let you have the Bearer. Whether or not a true Fairies Kindred deck becomes good in Standard remains to be seen. I have my doubts, but Bitterbloom Bearer doesn't need a Fairies deck alongside it to be good. I expect, for example, Dimir Midrange to try this card out as a 4-of. If you curve this into a Ninjutsu'd Kaito, Bane of Nightmares, you'll leave behind a 1/1 fairy to block your Kaito from any pressure on the back swing. Bitterbloom Bearer is one of the best standalone creatures in Lorwyn Eclipsed for Standard. Standard and Modern are very different formats that have very different requirements for what make a good card. That said, there are a few cards in Lorwyn Eclipse that I believe will have an impact on both formats. How very fitting that this set of hybrid cards has a Standard Modern hybrid list of picks. Next up, we have a new half-cycle of elemental incarnations, reminiscent of the cycle of free evoke elementals from Modern Horizons 2 that dominated Modern. I'm speaking to all of them at once because they share many of the same qualities. Wistfulness, catharsis, deceit, emptiness, and vibrance. 2-color incarnations for Simic, Boros, Dimir, Orzhov, and Gruul. These are hybrid creatures with an evoke cost of 2 hybrid mana. When they enter, if 2 mana of one of their colors was spent to cast the creature, you get 1 enter the battlefield effect. If 2 of the other color mana was spent, you get a different ETB effect. And of course, if you pay 2 of each mana, you get both effects when they enter. These incarnations are fascinating modal spells. Because their evoke cost is 2 hybrid mana, you can only get 1 of their 2 ETBs when you evoke them. You have to pick which one, and you need to be sure you have 2 mana of the color you need. But if you cast these cards for full retail, you get some outstanding value. The 3 best of the incarnation cycle are Deceit, Vibrance, and Wistfulness. Vibrance is at its best in Modern, where its primary role will be a 1-of answer to Magus of the Moon that you can tutor for with Summoner's Pact. Deceit and Wistfulness, on the other hand, seem even more impactful. These two creatures both look excellent for the Living End archetype. Both the real one in Modern and the one Standard uses, the Superior Spider-Man, to reanimate Bringer of the Last Gift, a demon that living ends when it enters the battlefield. Essentially, both Deceit and Wistfulness will have useful 2-mana modes in the deck. Deceit's blue mode can bounce an annoying permanent long enough to let you combo, or simply Thoughtseize away an opponent's counterspell with its black mode. Wistfulness can clear away graveyard hate for its green mode, or loot you into relevant action with its blue mode. And they do this while also putting a big creature in the yard for when you cast Living End. No, you don't get any of their ETBs when they get brought back from the yard, since you won't have spent any mana to cast them, but being big dumb creatures is all you need from them post Living End anyway. These incarnations being 2-mana spells with a true mana value of 5 or 6 is a big deal for Modern's version of Living End, which requires your spells to be too big to cascade into, but have artificially reduced mana costs to play in the early game. And in both Modern and Standard, you'll sometimes find yourself in a grindy game where you need to start hardcasting your big spells. Both Deceit and Wistfulness really shine when you get to that point. The next card I'm going to discuss is likely to make the greatest impact on multiple formats, but especially Standard and Modern. Formidable Speaker is Jean-Emmanuel Depraz's World Championship card. Formidable Speaker is a 2/4 elf druid for 2 generic and a green mana. When it enters, you may discard a card. If you do, tutor for a creature to put in your hand. Oh, and you can pay 1 and tap Formidable Speaker to untap another target permanent. This is an outstanding card. We've never seen an unconditional creature tutor attached to a creature this cheap before. Formidable Speaker is a card that feels custom-made for creature combo decks in particular. In Modern, the Speaker can tutor for Yawgmoth, Thran Physician, or Samwise Gamgee, key cards in 2 of the format's best creature combo decks. Both Samwise Cat Combo and Yawgmoth Undying Combo have fallen to the fringes of the format recently, but Formidable Speaker is exactly the card that can revitalize these archetypes. In Samwise Combo, Formidable Speaker can pitch a Cauldron Familiar directly to the yard to set up your combo. In Yawgmoth, the Speaker being a green creature means Green Sun Zenith can finally find Yawgmoth, albeit in a somewhat roundabout fashion. Tutor for Formidable Speaker, then use Speaker to grab Yawgmoth. You can also use the Speaker to tutor for Grist Hungertide in a scrappy, low-resource game. In Standard, there are 3 great homes for Formidable Speaker. The first is Ouroborid Dex, where it'll serve as your 5th through 8th copies of the powerful plant Worm. It even has the mana cost necessary to curve directly into the Worm. The next is in Living End, where discarding a card to get the effect is actually upside. Pitch a Bringer of the Last Gift, then go search up Superior Spider-Man. The best home in Standard, though, is Bant Airbending, which is looking to assemble the 3-card combo of Aang, Swift Savior, Appa, Steadfast Guardian, and Doc Orlok, Grizzled Genius. Not only does the Speaker find all your combo pieces, but 2 of the combo pieces can even airbend the Speaker into exile to recast to find the rest. That means a single Formidable Speaker will, eventually, win the game in Bant Airbending. Of course, you'll need to keep discarding a card every time you want to use it. Which brings me to the downside of Formidable Speaker. If you don't have a card in hand to discard, suddenly the Speaker gets a lot worse. That makes this a poor top deck in grindy, low-resource games. If you put Formidable Speaker in your deck, you should plan to hold on to an extra land if you're able to, rather than play it out. That way you'll have something to discard if you draw the Speaker later. One last point. That untap mode on Formidable Speaker isn't just flavor text. If Badger Mole Cub is in play, for instance, then untapping a mana dork actually nets you 1 mana. You can also use the Speaker to, say, untap Agatha's Soul Cauldron, giving you multiple activations in the same turn. What an unbelievable card. Now, there is one card in particular from Lorwyn Eclipsed that was clearly designed with Modern in mind. This card is strong enough that I could see it finding a home in Standard as well, but it is so clearly great in Modern that it would feel like a crime to dilute the discussion with talk of other formats. Moonshadow is a 7/7 elemental with Menace for just 1 black mana. However, it enters with 6 -1/-1 counters on it. Whenever 1 or more permanent cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere, remove a -1/-1 counter from Moonshadow. Moonshadow is one of those cards you look at and the very first thought in your head is, wow, that is powerful with fetch lands. When a card makes you have that reaction, then you know it's a card designed for Modern. But fetch lands aren't the only cards in Modern with which Moonshadow is powerful. Both Mishra's Bauble and Street Wraith are 0-mana ways to remove -1/-1 counters from Moonshadow without costing you a card. You can also use Psychic Frog's discard ability to take the counters away, and if you're playing blue, then an Evoked Subtlety also removes a -1/-1 counter from Moonshadow. Basically, it's not hard for Moonshadow to attack for 4 on turn 2, and it could easily attack for much more than that. There are just so many ways to put permanents in your graveyard for Moonshadow to stay small for long, and I haven't even talked about its evasion yet. Giving this card Menace is really, really good. Menace makes it extremely difficult for your opponent to chump block it, at least repeatedly. They can't easily stonewall it with tokens. Blocking this costs them real resources, but if they don't block it, then they'll die in just 3 hits. Moonshadow is strong enough to potentially revitalize its predecessor, Death's Shadow, as many of the same cards, like Fetches and Street Wraith, are good for both 1-drops. And with the additional synergy between Psychic Frog and Moonshadow, you've got yourself a nice set of 12 cheap and powerful threats to build the rest of your disruptive Dimir Tempo deck around. Red has Ragavan, white has Oscillate Pride, blue has Tameo, Inquisitive Student, and green has Delighted Halfling. Before Lorwyn Eclipsed, black's best 1-drop was probably Nethergoyf, but even that's a pretty underwhelming card compared to some of these others I just mentioned. Moonshadow, on the other hand, now that's a 1-drop that can compete with those of the other 4 colors in Magic. All right, we have saved the best for last. Pauper, my favorite format, the best budget format there is. Let's take a look at all the commons from Lorwyn Eclipsed that are going to make an impact in Pauper. And there you have it. Huh? Hey, look, I'm not gonna waste your time. Pauper gets nothing from this set. Sorry, but you know what? If you want to see me play Pauper with none other than Andrea Mengucci, check out our newest Pauper episode of Shuffle Up and Play here. Or maybe you'd like to see which new cards from Lorwyn Eclipsed are great in Commander. Whether you watch that video, or maybe our video on Pre-Modern, I hope very much this video has been of some help to you, and you can help me out greatly by, watching one of those other videos. That's why I mentioned them. And remember, whether you're playing Standard or Modern, when it is possible and when it is reasonable to do so, try and spend your money where you do spend that time playing the formats that you play, enjoying this great game, and that is at your local game store. You're supporting your Magic community when you do. And thanks again to Helix for sponsoring this video. If you're ready for a better night's sleep, then say hello to Helix Sleep. Just go to helixsleep.com/Tolarian and get my exclusive 27% off discount site-wide during their flash sale that's going on right now. Links in this video description or by scanning the QR code. Say hello to a good night's sleep with Helix Sleep. And thank you, Helix, for sponsoring this video.
Next time on Shuffle Up and Play.
What's up? It's Shuffle Up and Play with fans. We are playing with fan decks. Also, we're playing with a very special guest.
I'm Mark Rosewater. I'm the head designer for Magic the Gathering.
30 years, and you have not killed it yet.
I keep trying every year.
I know you do.
This goal of destroying Magic, Mark, you're not delivering, so.
And the angel's gonna hit. Down to 6.
Down to 6.
Hey! Blood for the blood god.
Uh-oh. So the cynical loner is coming at Mark.
I will take 3 cynicism.
So we're doing a fair, logical attack here. Would you agree, Mr. Rosewater? This is logic. This is gameplay.
It's actually politics.
How is that politics?